So I'm told, if you're walking home alone through the streets of a small southern town, and the moon casts long shadows across empty sidewalks, and you've stayed out past dark, even though your parents warned you not to, you might hear footsteps behind you. You stop. The footsteps stop. You walk faster, they walk faster, and then you see her, a towering figure dressed in black, at least 7 feet tall, wearing a wide-brimmed hat that hides her face in shadow. Before you can scream, she lunges forward, wraps you in a suffocating embrace, and lets out an ear-piercing shriek that leaves your ears ringing for days. Welcome to Abbeville, Alabama, home of Huggin Molly, one of the South's most enduring and terrifying urban legends. For over a century, generations of children in Abbeville have grown up hearing the same warning from their parents. Don't stay out after dark, or Huggin Molly will get you. And every single one of them believed it. The legend describes Molly as an imposing figure. Some say 7 feet tall. Others claim she's even taller. She's described as being as big around as a bale of cotton, with a massive head and abnormally long black hair that obscures her face. She dresses entirely in black, a dark cloak or tattered dress, a wide-brimmed hat, and in some versions she even carries a black umbrella. But here's what makes Huggin Molly truly unique among ghost stories. She doesn't want to hurt you. She wants to hug you. When Molly finds a child wandering the streets after dark, she chases them down, grabs them in a vice-like embrace, and screams directly into their ear, a banshee-like shriek so loud and piercing that witnesses claim it leaves their ears ringing for days. Then, just as suddenly as she appeared, she vanishes back into the shadows. No broken bones, no scratches, just the terror of being grabbed by something that shouldn't exist, and the unmistakable proof that you weren't imagining things, that ringing in your ears. To understand Huggin Molly, you need to understand Abbeville itself. This small Alabama town has seen more than its fair share of tragedy. In the early 1900s, an arsonist burned down the entire town. Everything. Gone in flames. This is around the time when the legend of Huggin Molly seems to have first taken root in the collective consciousness of Abbeville. Later, an F2 tornado tore through the area, destroying many of the rebuilt structures and forcing the town to literally build on top of the ashes and rubble of what came before. But the town's tragedies go deeper. From the struggles of European settlers to the forced surrender of the Creek Nation to the brutal realities of segregation, Abbeville's streets have witnessed lynchings, violence, and injustices that went unpunished. For many residents, especially black families, being out after dark was genuinely dangerous. The warning to children to stay inside after sunset wasn't just about ghost stories, it was about survival. In many ways, legends like Huggin Molly emerge from collective trauma. When a community experiences repeated loss and horror, sometimes the only way to process it is to give it a name, a face, a story that can be told and retold until the unspeakable becomes almost bearable. So, who was Huggin Molly? That depends on who you ask, because like all great legends, there are multiple origin stories. The grieving mother. The most common version claims Molly was a woman who experienced every parent's worst nightmare. She lost her child. The grief drove her mad, and, in her anguish, she began wandering the streets at night, grabbing other children to hug them, desperately trying to fill the void left by her own baby's death. In this version, Molly isn't evil. She's tragic, a mother forever searching for comfort that can never come. The murdered woman. Another version suggests Molly was killed in cold blood on the very streets she now haunts. Perhaps she was attacked after dark with no one around to help her. Now her spirit roams those same streets, trying to protect others from meeting the same fate, warning children to get home safely by scaring them straight. The protective professor. Some locals claim Molly was actually a professor at what used to be the Southwest Alabama Agriculture School. In this gentler interpretation, she roamed the streets at night not to terrify her students, but to keep them safe, using fear as a tool to get young people off the dangerous streets and back into the safety of their homes or dorms. The witch. And then there's the darker version, that Molly was a witch who wandered the night seeking children, squeezing them to see if they were plump enough. Well, you can imagine the rest. This version carries echoes of Hansel and Gretel and taps into ancient fears of the wicked woman in the woods. Each version reveals something about the community telling it. Is Molly a cautionary tale about grief, about violence against women, about the importance of looking out for one another? Or is she simply the boogeyman parents invoke to keep their kids safe? Now here's where it gets really interesting. For many people in Abbeville, Huggin Molly isn't just a story, she's something they truly believe in. Jimmy Rain, a lifelong Abbeville resident and successful businessman, grew up hearing about Huggin Molly. He recalls, "Anybody who grew up in Abbeville grew up knowing the legend of Huggin Molly. If your mother or dad didn't want you to be out after dark, they'd tell you Huggin Molly would get you. And you believed it too." But it wasn't just his parents' warnings that convinced him. Rainey's childhood friend, Tommy Murphy's father, told them something that made their blood run cold. He claimed he had been hugged by Huggin Molly himself when he was a child. That first-hand account from a trusted adult. That was all the boys needed to know the legend was real. On moonlit nights, kids would hurry home, certain they saw something moving in the shadows, terrified she would be waiting around the next corner. They'd run toward streetlights, those islands of safety in the darkness, only to have some of those very lights mysteriously go out just as they approached. Were these experiences real supernatural encounters? Mass hysteria? The power of suggestion on impressionable young minds? Or perhaps, in some cases, pranksters taking advantage of the legend to scare children? The truth is, we may never know. And honestly, that's what makes the legend so enduring. Huggin Molly exists in that liminal space between belief and skepticism, where fear and imagination blur together. Unlike many ghost stories that communities try to distance themselves from, Abbeville has embraced Huggin Molly as part of its identity. In 2006, Jimmy Rain, the same kid who grew up terrified of Molly, opened Huggin Molly's restaurant on Kirkland Street in downtown Abbeville. It's a 1950s-themed diner complete with an old-fashioned soda fountain, vintage memorabilia, and Southern comfort food. You can order Molly's Fingers with their signature comeback sauce, or enjoy a meal surrounded by newspaper clippings of reported Molly sightings and illustrated versions of her story from decades past. The restaurant has become more than just a nostalgic eatery. It's helped revitalize downtown Abbeville and given the community a gathering place where the past meets the present. It's a tribute to local folklore and a reminder that sometimes the things that scare us can also bring us together. Even today, Abbeville children still grow up hearing about the woman in black on the streets. Parents still tell their kids, "Be home before dark," or "Huggin' Molly will get you." The legend continues, passed from generation to generation, evolving with each telling but never quite going away. And if you drive through rural Alabama, you might even spot the Abbeville city sign featuring a ghostly image of Huggin Molly chasing children, an official acknowledgement of the town's most famous resident. So, what's the real truth behind Huggin Molly? Was she a grieving mother, a murdered woman, a protective teacher, or something else entirely? The answer might not matter as much as what the legend represents. In a town that has faced fire, tornadoes, violence, and systemic injustice, Huggin Molly is a way of taking back control. She's a warning and a comfort rolled into one, a reminder that the darkness holds dangers, but also that communities look out for their own. She's trauma transformed into folklore, fear turned into something families can talk about around the dinner table. And perhaps that's the most important thing to understand about legends like Huggin Molly. They're not just scary stories to keep kids in line. They're how communities process their history, protect their children, and pass down wisdom wrapped in the familiar cloak of a ghost story. So the next time you find yourself in Abbeville, Alabama, stop by Huggin Molly's restaurant. Enjoy some Southern cooking. Learn more about this fascinating legend, and whatever you do, make sure you're inside before dark. Because you never know. She might still be out there, waiting in the shadows, ready to wrap some unsuspecting wanderer in her infamous embrace. Or so I'm told.